Now, if it's raining and you're photographing a car, the real panic doesn't really come from getting your gear wet, getting your coat wet, you getting wet. It's none of that. It's that voice inside your head saying, I'm going to miss something. I need to hurry up. I need to keep going. I need to get through. I need to be quick, or I need to reschedule. The rain and wet weather can compress your time. You know, the conditions change a lot. The lighting can change very, very quickly, which is exactly what's happened today. I've come out to shoot in the rain and it's now the sun's out, but we're going to use that to our advantage because I did plan for that. And that's where a lot of photographers go wrong. They don't plan for it and they start guessing. This can work sometimes, but most conditions it doesn't. This is how I shoot paid automotive work in the UK when the weather just is completely unpredictable. I have the same system, the same sequence every single time, and I have a full content list, I have a plan of attack, I have everything ready to go. Now, when it rains or when the conditions are difficult, I don't improvise. I have a fixed shot list that I run with. I start with the wide shots, detail second, motion third if possible, then I start going on to the big hero images. If the rain starts getting worse halfway through, I'm covered. I've got everything set and ready to go. Okay, shot lists matter more than anything when the conditions are against your favour. Like today now, it was raining and now the sun's come out. But it's okay because I've got a shot list. I know exactly what I'm going to be doing. Now the rain and bad weather tends to shrink the window you have to shoot the cars. You know, surfaces get wet, surfaces dry, the traffic changes, clouds open and close, which is exactly what's happened. So instead of chasing pretty moments and pretty hero images, I'm just going to get coverage first. I'm just going to focus on getting the shots I need to get. Because when you're shooting for dealerships, for example, they want usable images. They want things they can use straight off the bat. They don't necessarily need hero images straight away. But that order and that list is what's going to save you from messing up the whole shoot. Now, my exact rainy day sequence. These come first, the wide shots. 3/4 front, 3/4 rear, and dead side profile, and maybe a front profile or a rear profile. These are just the photos for insurance. These are just the basic, cover the angles, and I can sort them out in editing afterwards. I can make them pop. That way, if the rain just turns biblical, I've still got something that I can deliver afterwards. Now today we're shooting this Mini Cooper S from Virtue. We're going to get those insurance photos and then move on. We're just getting the basics in here. We're just doing this straight on, straight rear quarters. Now, a little tip here. You'll probably see I've got the histogram up on the screen. And the reason for this is it's a very handy tool to see where your highlights and your shadows are clipping. And I'm using this because it means later on in post, because I know they've not clipped, I can bring the highlights and shadows back. That's a handy little tip to learn, is about your histograms. Then we'll move on to step 2. We start looking for texture details. So we're looking at things like the badges, the lights, brake calipers, mirrors, you know, anything that can give a bit of detail and a bit of feeling about the car. You know, the wet weather can add a bit of contrast as well, so make sure you use that to your advantage. But just make sure you get nice and close so you can really see that rain, basically, and that wet panel. A lot of people tend to skip these bits when they're panicking and when you're trying to get things done in a short amount of time. And I start looking at like wheels and arches and brake calipers. You know, wet tires look good, you know, darker rubber, you have glossy rims, road grit going all up the side of the car. It gives a bit of character. And this is where cars start to feel a bit more real, a bit more grounded, like you see on a lot of dealership imagery. Okay, and now we're going to move on to details. So this is things like badges, stuff that's going to look good, you know, with a bit of rain on it. Now, I know my reflection's there, but if we turn the CPL, we may be able to cancel that out. If not, we'll have to either sort it in post or just move around the angles a little bit. Let's get nice and low, get that S badge. Again, I'm still using the histogram here to I'm getting all the details, I'm not clipping anything. I think with these minis, there isn't actually like a ton of detail on them. They're very sort of, unless you got the JCW one, they're fairly plain cars. Those lights are cool though, I do like those lights. Back over to the wheels and tyres, let's do those.
Sorry viewers, but I'm going to have to pop the screen out so I can get a better angle of what I'm doing. Also, did you like my new sticker? The thing is, yeah, again, with these non-JCW ones, they don't really have any coloured calipers or anything, but it's okay.
Right. And the main thing here is to not let the weather decide the shoot. Your process and your planning will decide the shoot. If the rain, if all it takes is one small weather change to completely mess up your workflow, you never had a workflow, it wasn't there. So make sure you tighten in that workflow to work around all conditions. You know, at the end of the day, if you're like me and you're in the UK, the weather is so unpredictable, especially between the months of like September and March. It's just completely unpredictable. And then once we've covered all of them, if you have a second person with you or you have another driver with you, that's when you can start looking into motion shots. So that's things like rollers and panning shots, you know, slow passes, keep the lights on, the wipers running, spray coming off the tires. All this motion tends to hide a lot of the chaos that the wet weather can bring. And you know, the still shots tend to expose it, but it depends how you work around it. But yeah, thirdly, that's when I start working on motion shots, especially if the weather's all right and it's not terrible. And then the hero images is what I do last. Now this may be a bit different to what a lot of people do, but I do the hero images last. You know, I'm thinking of, when I say hero images, I'm thinking of cover photos. These are the things that are going to go up on Facebook cover photos, website imagery. These are like the listing headers. These are the things that are going to really catch attention. And these are the images that people are going to lead social campaigns with. This is what dealerships are going to lead on their website with. This is like stuff like clean backgrounds, symmetry, reflections made nice and simple. This is the moment that I'll wait for, because when you're chasing that perfection, like I can risk chasing perfection now. Now that I've covered everything I need to cover, I can risk chasing those things. And now we're going to move on to perhaps the more hero orientated images, where we may start turning the wheels and putting the lights on and stuff like that. Now, I don't know about you, but a lot of these modern cars, I can't get them to keep their lights on. Okay, I'm indicating now, apparently. In fairness, I've done this in the wrong order, because now I can't turn the wheel. So we have to get in, and we're going to have to start this up. To turn the wheel on full lock, and then turn it off. Turn the electrics back on. Okay, so the dip beam is apparently on now. There we go. Now we're talking. Again, looking at the histogram to make sure I don't lose any details. We should drop the ISO a little bit. No harm in going down. Okay, so it appears there's always something clipping, which I'm not sure what it is. Which I'm guessing maybe the headlights. Let's get a little bit lower, see if we can make that. Oh, there we go. Now we've got to get a stone somewhere. Get those reflections off the floor there as well. Good directional light. Lovely. See what it looks like from the back. It might not be that great, but we do have a lot of diffused light in the sun there, so it might be alright. Let's have a look. There's only one way to find out, isn't there? Yeah, that looks pretty good. I think the lights have gone off. Get a look again. Use those lines in the car park as leading lines. Lovely. Now, there are some things I skip when it's raining. Now, there's some shots I just don't chase, and when the weather's terrible, especially with like convertibles, for example. You know, you don't want the roof down when it's raining, because no one has the roof down when it's raining, so it's unrealistic. You know, sort of door open interior shots as well, unless you've got an umbrella and a second person with you. Don't risk it. You're gonna mess something up inside the car. You know, super low rollers as well near puddles. You don't want to risk your gear too much. Not because they're impossible, but it can just cause a lot of problems unless you have a second shooter, unless you have a second person with you. If you have a second person with you, go for it. But if you're on your own like me today, that's not an option when it comes to shooting this by myself. And if, like now, where the rain has eased, I can rerun the hero images, I can rerun bits, but only because I've got those insurance photos in place straight away. You know, if it starts getting worse, I'll start tightening up those details, get that first bit in really, really quickly, and then if it gets busy and traffic starts showing up, That's when we start moving around into different kind of motion shots. That's where we go off and do the rollers, and that's when we go off and do other things. That kind of loop keeps the shoot alive. It keeps the momentum going, and it keeps that creativity flowing. Now, in my opinion, this is the difference between photographers who survive through bad weather and photographers who tend to reschedule. It's about utilising that weather and using it to your advantage. It's about planning and not just hoping. It's about actually executing according to a plan and making the most of those conditions. So just a quick recap, here's the rainy day sequence I go through. Wide safety shots, details, motion, and hero last. Oh, but remember, only do the motion if you've got a second person with you. If you're on your own, just go straight to hero. Lock the coverage in first, then start looking at getting creative. That way you've always got safe shots, you've got insurance, you've got those shots there that you can deliver, you've got deliverables. Now, the series I'm going to be producing is going to be about photographing cars in real conditions, real clients, real weather, real systems, and then in the next episode I'm going to start looking at a different problem. But don't forget, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell to keep getting notifications when I upload, and please, if you want to see anything from me, drop it in the comments. Thank you.